Hello, everybody. Jim Feist, Andy Iskoe out here in sunny Las Vegas, although we've had some showers lately. Um, Andy, how are you?
I am fine. I had my monthly shower this morning. It's the first of the month. Oh, that's not the kind of showers you meant. You meant the rain showers. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spill that information.
Oh my God, we're not. We don't need to share. So, how are the contests doing? I know we've had a couple of bumps in the road. Some people have got eliminated. How are they doing?
Yeah, and especially with that tie on Sunday night, because the rules are you have to win. Not that you can't lose. You have to win. Now it didn't eliminate. It eliminated only the 478 people who had picked the Packers in the Circa Survivor this contest this past week. Nobody, and I think there were 6 or 7 such teams. Nobody had played the Cowboys, so nobody was eliminated there. And in fact, on the Monday night games, the Dolphins won to advance 54, and only 2 Jet pickers were eliminated. And the second game, 1,830 Broncos pickers easily advanced. One person was eliminated with the Bengals. And I'm always curious, sort of, and you really can't know unless somebody reveals it, is the people who pick these one or two on these clearly, I shouldn't say clearly, but fairly likely losers are parts of syndicates that have multiple entries, and they'll take one or two every week and put them on teams where if they happen to get lucky and that big upset occurs, they will survive while maybe 2,500 are eliminated because they played the big favorite, like the 1,830 who advanced with the Broncos, or the 3,694 who had to sweat the Texans, and it was a 26-0 game, but by sweat it was 6-0 into the fourth quarter in that game. So I think that's part of the theory of the people who take these one or two. What was a little bit surprising is that one of the games only involved 4 contestants. It was the Eagles at the Buccaneers. The Eagles were 3.5-point favorites. 4 people took the Eagles on the road. Nobody took the Buccaneers at home. And that's kind of surprising because they're 2 very good teams. In reality, if you're, even if you're a small 3.5, 4-point favorite on the road, you could very easily lose that game. And, the home team, Tampa Bay, look, they've won 4 division titles, looking to make it 5. I was surprised that nobody at all took the Bucs, and that only 4 people took the Eagles, because a lot of these competitive games tend to draw action both ways. Although at the same time, Ravens and Chiefs, despite both struggling, only 2 people were on that game. They were both on the Ravens.
Sometimes it might be they're trying to save them for those short weeks, Thanksgiving, Christmas stuff. And they want to save them for later in the year so they don't.
Certainly the Chiefs and the Eagles fit that category because I know they're both involved.
Right, because a lot of people don't understand. If you got into one of those made-up weeks where Thanksgiving extra, that's like an extra week.
Yeah, 2-part weeks.
And you don't have one of the teams to play, you're automatically eliminated.
Yeah. Well, that's 8 teams for Thanksgiving Thursday and Friday, and 6 teams for Christmas week, which is split into 2 weeks, which are basically, it's week 17 of the season, which in contest weeks are weeks 18 and 19, because week 18 in the NFL, which is in the contest. So some people may be looking to use games, and I think one of the games, maybe it's Thanksgiving, where, for example, I believe I've already used the Ravens. I'm not positive on that. I don't recall. I believe I did, but nonetheless, I don't think I did, but they host Cincinnati late in the season. I think it's Thanksgiving night. And of course, now it's unlikely Joe Burrow will be there. So that might be a situation where they're going to use Baltimore against a team that was expected to be a good team, but will now be shorthanded. And so it's almost like, they playing the Saints on Thanksgiving, having Baltimore to pick on Thanksgiving against the Bengals is almost like having a team right now to pick against the Saints.
You mentioned Baltimore. This week, I mean, we don't usually get into talking individual games on this podcast, but this week's an unusual situation. The Ravens playing at home, and they opened a pretty good sized favorite.
In fact, let me just point that out. When the advanced lines come out at the Westgate, which is the Tuesday before the next week's game, so this week was week 4. So the Tuesday before Week 4, which I think was September 23rd, the Baltimore Ravens were 10-point home favorites against the then winless Texans and the 1-2 at that time Ravens. And then, of course, you can follow up with what happened since then.
So the Ravens lose last week to the Chiefs, and the Texans win. And they open the Ravens, I think, 6.5-point favorite. But the Ravens have a lot of injuries, including.
I saw 3.5 at the Westgate as the first opening, but that was Sunday night, I believe, after Lamar Jackson injured his hamstring, and it must have felt at that time, for that big of a line adjustment, seemed to indicate that it was quite likely he would not play this week, and that became not quite official because as of Tuesday, which is a day before today when we're doing this on Wednesday, he was officially listed as doubtful.
And now the Texans are favored.
They were actually as high as -2.5. It's now settled in as of Wednesday afternoon at -1 on the road.
Wow.
And you know who I'll be playing.
Pardon?
Yeah, and you know which side I'm playing in that game. Not in Survivor.
I'm pretty well sure I know who you're playing. So what do we got in the contest? How many Grandissimos are out and how many are in?
Yeah, I have to check the Grandissimo while we're talking, but I can tell you in the main contest, the number of people alive into last week. The original field was 18,718 for a winner take all or split all of 18 million.
That's Circa Survivor.
That's Circa Survivor. Yeah, I'm going to get to the Grandissimo in a bit here.
Okay.
But the going into the pot is 18,718,000. Okay, for one winner or for multiple winners to split, if the contest goes 20 weeks or ends on a week where the last people are eliminated. Through the first 3 weeks of the contest, 4,907 were eliminated. Most of those as a result of two big upsets in Week 3. I believe they were the Falcons losing to Carolina, I believe it was.
That was
and
one of them.
I think the Steelers may have been the other. I'd have to go back and check on that. But anyway, that eliminated quite a number that they were down to 1,311 entering this week. And there were two major upsets, and you could probably figure which ones they were. One was the Chargers with 789. Well, one upset. 789 had the Chargers. Nobody had the Giants. So those 789 were eliminated when the Giants won 21-18. And then the game between Dallas and Green Bay, in this contest, you have to win to advance. Ties eliminate both teams. Nobody was on the Cowboys. 478 were on the Packers. And so those two together combined for, about 1,267, I believe, of the people that were eliminated. Overall, 1,407 were eliminated, leaving 12,404 remaining alive into Week 5. We're now just past the, what used to be the exact quarterly part of the season, 4 out of 16. It's now 4 out of 17. And in fact, the buys start coming now in Week 5. The value of each of those 12,404 entries is now up to $1,509. If you were to sell it for the, if the contest ended this week and everybody remaining was eliminated, everyone would get $1,509 just by being the last to survive. Obviously, that's not anywhere near the case, and this $1,509 will grow as more and more people are eliminated, be it on just a handful of people on a certain side or thousands of people on a certain side, which could be the situation. 3 were eliminated last week in the Grandissimo, which is the contest that carries a $100,000 entry fee. There were 69 contestants, and let's see, last week, if I can find it, I believe 3 were eliminated, and they were the Chargers were 2, the Packers were 1, and let's see, the Patriots won, the Broncos won, the Lions won, the Texans won, and the Bills won. So they advanced, and I believe now there are, there were 58, so I guess it's 55 live entries right now in the Grandissimo. As far as
this week, who would you expect to be the you got to look at, I guess, at the big double-digit favorites is possibly, if they haven't been used by people, Buffalo, Detroit. Arizona.
Arizona, I think, will be the biggest favorite. Although a lot of people use them, I think, either against I think it was the Panthers in game. No, maybe it was the Saints in game 1 and the Panthers in game 2 when they hosted both of those and won both of those. Now the Cardinals are in an interesting situation because they won both of those 2 games outright, so those people advanced. But of course, you can only use the Cardinals once. Now they return home to face the winless Tennessee Titans,
who absolutely terrible.
They have increased their losing margin each week. I think they lost by 8 in Denver in a very good effort, relatively, and then the 3 double-digit losses since then. The Cardinals, however, come in a favorable spot after losing back-to-back divisional games to San Francisco. I want to say 17-13, and then they come in with the rest after last Thursday night's loss. I think it was they were down 20-6 in the fourth quarter. They came back to tie, and Seattle got that late field goal to win on the road 23-20. So the 2-0 Cardinals are now the 2-2 Cardinals. And that's a team. I'm probably going to play that team. And the reason being is there aren't going to be too many more situations this year where Arizona will be at home and in a favorable situation. I don't know that they're good enough to really trust on the road, although they did win, I think, at New Orleans and at home against Carolina. But also Tennessee, despite their poor record, you have to believe with Cam Ward and that entire team around him, second-year coach, that the team will show steady improvement over the course of the season. They may only win 3 or 4 games, but they will be a better team as the season draws on, as Cam Ward gets more familiar and they do more to protect them, and they get some healthy bodies, maybe make some acquisitions around the trade deadline. That if you play against Tennessee right now, you're probably playing against a Titans team. I'd have to say they really can't get much worse.
I really don't know that they can win a game, honestly. They look absolutely horrendous, and I think their head coach is as bad as you can get. I just don't see anything about this team that makes them viable.
Yeah. I think when we did our podcast, I sort of jokingly talked about the improvement of Cam Ward through the first 3 weeks. That improvement improved, but it's sort of a misleading improvement. In game 1, he was sacked 6 times, then 5 times, then 4 times. Last week, he was held down to only 2 sacks. So but that's still 17 sacks in 4 games.
But they're still getting crushed in every game.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Arizona historically has been a team that Arizona's been a team that can beat up on the weak teams and gets beaten up on by the good teams. So far this year, They led wire to wire, I think, in their first 2 wins, and then lost competitive games against Seattle and San Francisco, who, even with the injuries, probably are still a better roster than the Cardinals.
They also lost their 2 top running backs. Connor is out, and I can't remember the other person's name.
The kid, I forget the name.
Brennan Breeson last week, but you remember he's been
Breeson
ruled
or
out.
Something? Yeah.
Yes, that's what I thought it was. But they're both out, 2 top running backs. And Murray, of course, is a smallish quarterback with a lot of foot speed and can throw the ball well. But he's not the kind of guy that's going to carry a team.
No, but he can probably carry them past a team like the Titans. Maybe you go up against a team that's in favor like the Patriots, maybe not against a team like the Patriots.
You mentioned at the beginning of the year that sometimes you just take a team and bet against them every week.
Yeah, that you can do that.
And maybe because you can only use a team once, but you can bet against somebody as often as they're.
In theory, you can bet against them 14 times because games 15, 16, and 17 would be divisional rematches.
Right.
You would have already used them.
So, I mean, just keep betting against Tennessee.
Yeah.
If you haven't already used Arizona, bet against Tennessee. Now, the other teams, I mean, Cincinnati looks horrendous. Detroit, I mean, Detroit looks incredible right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Detroit is one of those Thanksgiving Day teams. And the thing with Detroit is, and this is again, part of game theory. Do you use Detroit in a situation like this, albeit on the road against a very, very weak team? Or would you rather try and use a similarly weak, but not quite as weak team, a team that you ordinarily might not use otherwise? For example, maybe the Cardinals, to beat a team that they should be able to beat because of the weakened condition of that team. For example, maybe you want to use either the Giants or the Saints in that game, figuring depending upon your point of view and which team you have more confidence in, figuring that might be the only time that you might consider using either team this season as part of the 20 that you would have to use if you go the full distance.
If it were me, depending on which team I've already used, I would use Arizona, because Detroit's going to be playing in those games, in Thanksgiving, Christmas type thing, and you're going to need to keep your options open for those weeks.
I think Detroit, people who are looking at Detroit, I think they are hoping that I'm not hoping for, but they hope that Jordan Love struggles a little bit, because that will be a big revenge game for Detroit, who lost up in Green Bay in week 1. So this would be an opportunity, depending upon the health of both teams, to use a good team Detroit to defeat a good team in Green Bay, but maybe not as good because of the revenge factor, and not have to use Detroit in a situation where they're playing, for example, the Cincinnati Bengals this week.
A lot of people don't want to use division games because of the obviously familiarity and there's more potential of upsets in division games. So a lot of people refuse to use division games in their survivor picks.
Yeah. I can understand that theory, but sometimes teams are in some divisions are like so bad, like Tennessee. Okay. You could have used them against Indianapolis last week and they won by 21 points. Indianapolis is a good enough team, however, for what they showed. I do not downgrade Indianapolis for their loss to the Rams. They lost to a very good team. As I say often,
a wide receiver would have been able to hold on to the ball across the line, they might not have lost.
If he hadn't pulled a Leon Lett or whatever it was. But Indianapolis is now a kind of team that was probably not on many people, including my own list of the 20 teams they would consider using before the season starts. And now they are a very competitive team. And the saying I always have, and I've said it before, when two good teams meet, one good team has to win. When two good teams meet, one good team has to lose. When two bad teams meet, one bad team has to win. So I consider Indianapolis, based upon their first 3 weeks, including a win over Denver, which is a decent team, to be a good team. So they just lost to a good team that happened to be a little bit better and was playing at home. And the Rams were struggling. And again, not only talk about that ball that the guy dropped for the Colts. Rams needed, after they caught up to 2020, they needed an 88-yard touchdown pass to get the winning and covering score.
I mean, even Indianapolis would be a choice this week.
Against the Raiders, absolutely.
Vegas looks absolutely horrible. I don't know what the hell. Geno Smith left his good football in Seattle.
I believe he has 7 interceptions and 6 touchdown passes.
So far this year?
So far this year. And I think he's been sacked 9 times.
Wow. I would be like, looking at Indianapolis as a possible. But let's get on to some of the other stuff that we need to talk about.
All right.
What's on the top of your food chain?
Yeah. By the way, the something interesting about the Minnesota-Cleveland game. Most teams normally take their bye week after returning from Europe. Well, this will be Minnesota's second straight game in Europe, which I think by itself is an advantage, because Cleveland's coming in there for the first time a few days before the game. And Minnesota is taking their bye week when they get home. So what's this? This is week 5, so they'll be taking their bye week in week 6. Cleveland, however, has decided to take their bye week, not next week, but in week 10. Okay? And the reward for postponing their bye week is a trip to Pittsburgh next week. So Cleveland plays Minnesota, which already has a lot of advantages. Minnesota, I think, is 4-1 in Europe over the this will be in their last 5 trips, all since I think 2017 or 2018, and this will be their 4th game now in the last 3 seasons, because they played in 22 and 23. I don't think they played 24, and now this is the second of 2 25 games. And Cleveland, you hate to say look aheads, but that's a tough spot when you got a chance. You got to go to your division rival, and you do have such good defense, and Pittsburgh so far has not, although they showed a little bit more. So that's an interesting game. So I think Minnesota might be a survivor pick this week that might surprise some people because of the low point spread of 3.5.
But I mean, if anybody looks at their roster, they got a lot of injuries. Cleveland plays tough defense.
Yeah.
Now,
no offense.
They're also, they're changing their quarterback. They're going
Dylan, rookie Gabriel. Gabriel.
Gabriel. I don't know what to make of that. All the Guardians did win today, and they pulled even with Detroit, and they're going to have a big game 3. That's big. But this is football we're talking about. Anyway, the advantage of staying overseas, you don't have the jet lag. However, you probably have your family with you, and there's a lot of family time. And I'm not too sure it doesn't interfere with your practices. I don't think Cleveland cares about looking ahead to anything. I think they know they're not going anywhere. They can't accomplish anything.
One thing to consider about Cleveland, because they are starting a new quarterback, that travel day takes away the amount of preparation that they have to assimilate Gabriel into the first team offense. Yeah, they did it in summer camp, but now it's different. Now that's a different game, and you have film on oppositions. To the same extent, Minnesota doesn't have any film on Gabriel, but still, that's one less session of workouts or whatever that the Guardians, that the Browns have to prepare for the Vikings, as opposed to if they made the change after this game.
True. All right. What else you see out there that you that's interesting?
Well, we could talk about the alternate lines and then take a look at teasers. And of course, the alternate lines means taking a game that you think could be either a nice little upset one way. For example, let's say you like Cleveland this week. Instead of taking 3.5, maybe you lay 2.5 or something. And instead of laying the 110 at the plus 3.5, maybe you get plus 170 at plus 2.5.
Well, Philadelphia opened a 5.5-point favorite according to the sheet that I'm looking
against Denver.
Against Denver, they're now 3.5, which means that's pretty good, a pretty sizable bet. Although 5 is a pretty dead number, 4 is not a dead number. But they passed that and they went to 3.5. So taking Denver plus 6.5 would take them to 10. And
now, if we're talking teasers, yes.
So if you play, you should never play at a place where ties lose. So you should always pick your books for that,
regardless of the vig. By the way,
well,
you should never play. You should never play ties lose. It should always be ties push.
If you're laying more than 120 on a teaser, you shouldn't. On a two-team 6-point teaser, you shouldn't play it. I mean, you just And from what we did a show today, and Crackman said that there's some places charging 160 on teasers.
I haven't heard of that place, but
Bill knows his shit. I mean, he knows what he's talking about. There's got, what it is.
Is he talking about in Vegas or somewhere in the world?
Well, it's most of this pricing nonsense is starting with FanDuel and DraftKings because, I'm just stealing his line. He says a lot of the people that are playing are just kids and they don't know any better.
Right.
So they just see it and they play it and they don't. And it's great. I mean, you can't lay that kind of number and win. You're not going to win
over.
You just can't win. So you got to look for, if you want to play two teams, you're gonna have to play money line parlays most likely.
And those now are being priced so that there's a very minimal difference between the money line parlay on a 2-teamer and the vig that you have to lay on a 2-teamer. What that would cost you.
So the books are basically pricing you out of making these bets totally.
They are pricing out the people who are smart enough to realize that it's too big of an edge against them, unless they find some little niche things. Like I think now everyone knows about the teas over 3, 4, 7, 8. To get it from like plus 2.5 to plus 8.5. More and more people are taking advantage of that. And at some point, that's going to disappear as far as an advantage, either because you have to pay a little bit of a different price if you go over a certain key number.
Well, Vegas started gouging people on rooms and parking and everything, and they started losing a lot of money. And it's going to happen in the sports betting industry as well, because you can only gouge so much. But now, if you're looking at something here, I don't know how you feel about Houston and Baltimore. You did say who you would be betting, but you talk about.
I said I thought you knew. You must know who
I do. But if you like Baltimore, taking them in a teaser would be a hell of a play, because now you're getting 7.5 with a 6, or you can get 8 with a 6.5. I mean, these are ridiculous numbers, guys. I mean, terrible.
I do like the Ravens in this spot because I think overall they still have the best roster, and even with Lamar Jackson out, Derrick Henry's probably the best player on the field. He hadn't played great that yet, but he's going up against a team that has not played
And
very
they have
solid as
they
good
have
defense
the
as they had
former
before.
backup quarterback from Dallas. What's his name?
Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush. He's not bad. You know,
No.
he won when he was playing for Dallas, and he came in. I think he won 5 out of 6 games.
Yeah, when he came in when Prescott was injured that year.
This is a much better roster for the Ravens than the Texans. Much better. They should not be an underdog at home. Not.
And as badly as the Baltimore defense has played, they're facing a Houston team that has no offense.
Correct.
Consider who Baltimore's played this year. They played the Bills, one of the better offensive teams. They played the Lions, who's one of the better offensive teams. I forget the other ones that they played, not quite as good, but that's a tough schedule that Baltimore had.
They played Cleveland and struggled with the most of the game, but they ended up winning.
And they ended up putting 41 points up. Now, part of it had to do with turnovers.
Against the Cleveland defense. And then they played the Chiefs, which seemed to have gotten their stuff together.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. But I would and now you're talking in Tampa Bay at Seattle. You're looking at, you want to play Tampa Bay plus 10?
Absolutely.
I mean, you do have, it looks like those two teams are, on paper, they might actually be pretty damn even.
That's the way I have them pretty much power rated.
Yeah.
I think one point better than the other.
So, these are the possibilities you have going for you out there. Now, Detroit and Cincinnati, the line is up at 10.5, so there's really no way you're not going to get fully favorable numbers with Detroit.
Now here's an interesting game, the Monday night game, because I think people don't realize how much improved Jacksonville is, especially defensively. If I heard the stat correctly, going into the game the other night, Jacksonville had last year Jacksonville forced only 9 turnovers all season, if I recall correctly. They already have 10 this season. So the defense has already made a major impact one quarter. That's a pace of 42, 43, which would be huge. They're not going to keep that pace up. And the other hand is, if you think that was a breakout game for Kansas City, maybe you do play an alternate line with Kansas City this week. Maybe you lay 7.5 with Kansas City. On the other hand, if you think Jacksonville is a live team, maybe you play them, or you certainly consider them. Does one game breakout by Kansas City change your opinion? Maybe, maybe not. But maybe because Jacksonville's improved, maybe you play them up to plus 9.5. And maybe you consider, maybe now you start considering those 3-team teasers where you basically don't have that odorous VIG.
You're better off with 3-team teasers these days because of the VIG on the 2 teams. Yes, you are. I happened to watch that game with Kansas City and felt I'm not going to go off one. I'm going off the rhythm, the smoothness of their offense, the play calling, the sharpness. I thought Kansas City found some rhythm in that game, and that's very dangerous going.
It may have been a carryover from the last quarter that they played up against the Giants when they scored those 2 late touchdowns to break open the 9-6 game. They started to look a little bit better.
Good point. I think Jacksonville is a decent team, but I don't think they're good enough to hold up.
Okay, I actually like that Kansas City. I actually like that game under the total.
Well, I can see
Jacksonville, Kansas City, which would, again, if that indeed is if it does stay under, I think it does so because Jacksonville's defense frustrates Kansas City, and the game and the plus 9.5 or plus 10 in a teaser probably works. If the game goes over, it's probably 15, 18 point blowout.
You're talking about totals. You got to look at this Minnesota Cleveland game from 41.5 to 36.
Yeah,
wow.
They must be expecting a hurricane or something. That's a huge move. That's over what would you say the total opened at?
41.5.
Which is 41's a key number, 38's a key number, 37's a key number. It just blew past 3 of them.
There was big quarterback change with Dylan Gabriel. Yeah. And of course Minnesota has offensive line issues now, and they have also have a backup quarterback in Wentz. Let me see if there's anything else that really moved substantially. Well, here's a drop off.
By the way, we always talk about the alternate lines and teasers for that matter regarding sides. You can consider them also for totals.
You can. The totals are more volatile, but a lot of people don't mess with them in those kind of bets. But I can see that. I would personally,
Especially if you like overs, by the way, because they're
yeah,
unlimited as far as how high you can go.
right. Here's Houston was open 43.5, and of
Hmm.
course this is switched. I'm looking at Baltimore open 6.5. You said it was lower, but 6.5, and
Yeah.
then now you got 1.5, 2 on Houston, and the total went from 43.5 to 40.5, or 40,
No.
or a flat 40.
Yeah. 41 is a key number. 24-17,
Yes,
27-14, something like that.
right. So
41
let's see
nothing.
if there's anything else that's substantially moved. We don't talk much about the WNBA, but did you see the cover last night by the Aces?
I didn't see it because I was out to dinner with some family, but I know that they had a nice lead. Then they fell behind, and then they had a rally. In the fourth quarter to force the overtime?
Well, they went the overtime, and they're laying 7.5 to 8.5, and they win by
For the game,
9.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, we talk about some bad beats this year, like the Rams losing
Yeah.
to Philadelphia on the
Philly.
last play. I mean, that was a bad beat for anybody that had the dog.
Well, the other big movement that I don't think we talked about was in the Thursday night game between the 49ers and the Rams, with the news that who was it, Jennings, and who's the other one? The one who got shot
Oh
for the
yes, yeah.
49ers, that
And
receiver,
Purdy's out. Oh, Pearson and
Pearson, yeah,
Pearson and Purdy and Purdy are both out.
yeah. And so that line, which again, 2 weeks ago the line was, or last week, Rams were 3.5. When I think they put it back up, it was 4.5, it was 5.5, I think,
Now it's
and then
7.5.
quickly moved up to 7.5. That's over several key numbers. I want no
It's
part of that game. However, if you like the 49ers with backup quarterback Mac Jones, you can now, when you could have perhaps teased them up to 8 or 9, now you can tease them up to over 14.
the only problem with Mac Jones is he's also a little banged up. He's going to
Yeah.
play, but he was also hurt a little bit.
But the
So
Rams have not been winning by margins.
I don't know what the hell is wrong with San Francisco and all their players being hurt every year. But it's just
Yeah.
it's almost like
I don't know if it's the training regimen or something like that. I don't
it's
know.
almost like they need 2 rosters.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Their injury list is just incredible. But
Yeah, well, that might be a game where you might tease the 49ers up and the total the total up as well to play it under. I don't know what that would
I would play that game under for sure.
Yeah.
And if you want to tease it, that's another issue. But I think it's a definite underplay. I don't see a lot of points coming on that bar. And if there's a lot of points, it's probably going to be by one side.
Yeah, and with no Purdy, McCaffrey's probably going to have to see a lot of action both as a runner and receiver. They have to slow the game down.
He's subject to getting hurt too. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got a career of injuries. So that's another issue. You start overusing him.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time he played a full season, but it had to be early in his career with Carolina.
Probably so. Well, is that it? We got cover enough here, Andy. You want anything else you want to?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I was trying to find an alternative line that might be attractive, and I don't know if I want to do it with the Cardinals with the running back situation, but they could, there could be another blowout loss for the Titans. So you could lay 10.5. No, the line already for Arizona is what, 8.5, something like that. You could lay up, maybe you lay 14.5 and they win, 28-13 or 28-10 or something like that, and the game stays under. But other than that, Kansas City, if you think that they've straightened things out, they might be a game that you might want to consider laying an alternate line a little bit higher. I'll be interested this week. And my thought earlier was that you want to probably wait a week or two and avoid the Chargers. Now that Alt is out, that's their backup left tackle after Slater went down before the season. And of course, Alt did have experience at Notre Dame playing the position. Now they're going to go to a third stringer. And Daniels, I believe, is now coming back this week for the 49ers. Haven't heard yet about McLaren, but Washington might be a good play. I'm trying to see what where that line currently is, because I know that the Chargers were favored as high as 3. They're now back to 2.5. So Washington might be a possible play. In fact, I just saw something on the screen that indicated a recent injury update for that game. And let me see if I can get a hold of that one before we move on. And let me see who's involved there. Jaden Daniels is now listed as probable.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to play.
Yeah, McLaren is he's been listed out indefinitely. So that's not good for them, but at least they're prepared.
True.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, thank you very much. I appreciate the great content and information.
Glad to join you.
Let's have a good week and pick up some winners. I've not had a stellar NFL season. I'm doing well in baseball, well in basketball, well in college football, but the thing that I've always done well in the NFL for the first 4 weeks have not been good. So I got to pick it up. But maybe now that they've played their preseason games.
Yeah. As people like to look at the start of the season. And they've faced generally a varying variety, strength, quality of teams.
Correct. Take care, Andy. Important. We'll see you soon.
Jim, take care, and good luck to all the folks out there who are following us.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening.